Can you handle watching 8 trades fail in a row, not once, not twice, but multiple times every single year? Because that's what you're signing up for when you chase those perfect 3.1 risk-reward setups that every trading guru swears by. And here's the part nobody tells you: that's exactly why most traders quit, while the professionals are quietly doing something completely different. If you've ever felt that sinking feeling in your stomach after your 5th losing trade in a row, wondering if your strategy is broken, wondering if you're broken, this video is for you. And if something I say hits too close to home, do me a favor and like this video, not for me, but because that moment of recognition, that uncomfortable feeling of being seen, that's where real change begins. Professional trading firms don't obsess over 3.1 risk-reward ratios. Yet every YouTube video, every trading course, every mentor you've ever followed has drilled this into your head like it's the holy grail of trading. Never risk more than you can make. Always aim for 3-to-1 or better. If your risk-reward isn't at least 2-to-1, don't take the trade. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why this advice, the advice that sounds the smartest, the advice that looks perfect on paper, is actually setting you up for psychological torture and account destruction. We're going to look at the math, yes, but more importantly, we're going to look at what happens to you, to your confidence, to your emotions, to your ability to even press the buy button after you've been stopped out for the 8th time in 2 weeks. You know that feeling when you're on your 6th losing trade and you start questioning everything? That's not weakness. That's not you failing. That's your brain responding exactly the way evolution designed it to respond. And we're going to talk about why the 3-1 approach puts you in that hellish mental state over and over again. You've heard this 1,000 times. Your risk-reward ratio should be at least 2-1, ideally 3-1 or better. The logic sounds bulletproof, right? If you risk $100 to potentially make $300, you only need to win 25% of your trades to break even. Simple mathematics, clean, logical, beautiful. And you know what? That math is absolutely correct. It's just completely, devastatingly useless in the real world of trading. What actually matters, what determines whether you make it or quit, is what happens in the messy, frustrating, psychologically brutal reality of executing these trades day after day. And when we look at that reality, when we look at what actually happens to real human beings trying to trade these systems, the 1-1 approach doesn't just win. It destroys the 3.1 approach. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Let's talk about something every trading educator conveniently forgets to mention: losing streaks. Not just one loss, not a couple of bad trades. I'm talking about those soul-crushing stretches where absolutely nothing works, where every single trade stops you out, where you start lying awake at 3 a.m. wondering if you ever had an edge in the first place, or if you've been fooling yourself this entire time. Have you been there? If you have, drop a comment saying, "I've been there," because I want you to know you're not alone in this. Here's the thing that nobody tells you. These losing streaks aren't rare events. They're not anomalies that only happen to bad traders. They're mathematical certainties. They will happen to you. The only question is how often and how bad they'll be. And that frequency changes dramatically based on your win rate. Let me introduce you to 2 traders. Let's call them Sarah and Mike. Both of them are competent. Both of them have strategies with positive expected value. Both of them should theoretically make money over time. Sarah trades a 1.1 risk-reward system. She risks $100 to make $100. Her win rate is 55%. Nothing spectacular, not Instagram-worthy, just slightly better than a coin. Flip. Mike trades a 3.1 risk-reward system. He risks $100 to make $300. His win rate is 35%, still above that magical 25% break-even threshold everyone talks about. On paper, both systems can be profitable. The math works for both. But here's where conventional trading education completely, utterly fails you. They assume that what works on paper works in your actual trading account, in your actual psychology, in your actual life. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Think about it logically for a second. If Mike is only winning 35% of his trades, that means he's losing 65% of the time. He loses almost 2 out of every 3 trades he takes. That's a lot of red in your trading journal. That's a lot of notifications telling you your stop loss was hit. That's a lot of times you have to watch your account balance tick down instead of up. What do you think happens to a human being when they lose 2 out of every 3 times they try something? You hit brutal losing streaks. A lot. 5 losses in a row. 7 in a row, 8 in a row. For Mike, this isn't some rare black swan event that he can tell war stories about. This is a normal month. This is just how his system operates. Let me tell you what that feels like because maybe you've experienced it. After the third loss, you're still okay. You tell yourself, this is normal. This is variance. My strategy works. After the fifth loss, doubt starts creeping in. You're checking your strategy rules. You're reviewing your entries. After the seventh loss, you're going through your entire trading plan looking for what's wrong. You're on Reddit at midnight asking if the market has fundamentally changed. You're wondering if you should just quit trading and get a normal job like everyone told you to. And here's the absolutely brutal part. The part that makes this so psychologically devastating. There's nothing wrong with Mike's system. This is exactly what a 35% win rate system does. This is normal operation. This is what he signed up for, even if he didn't realize it. But Mike's brain doesn't know that. His brain thinks he's failing. His brain is screaming at him that something is catastrophically broken and he needs to fix it immediately or abandon ship. Meanwhile, Sarah, with her boring 1.1 system and her unimpressive 55% win rate, she might hit 3 or 4 losses in a row occasionally. It's uncomfortable, sure, it's not fun, but she's winning often enough that she never falls into that psychological death spiral. She gets a win before her confidence completely collapses. She gets that dopamine hit before learned helplessness sets in. If you're still watching and this is resonating, hit that like button. Because this message needs to reach other traders who are suffering through this exact experience right now. This isn't just my opinion or some motivational nonsense. Researchers at the University of California analyzed thousands of retail traders and found something fascinating. Traders who experienced consecutive losses of 5 or more trades performed 23% worse on their subsequent trades. Not because their strategy changed, not because the market changed, but because their psychology was compromised, their decision-making was impaired, they were damaged. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your head when you're losing trade after trade after trade. Researchers at MIT did something brilliant. They hooked traders up to monitors and watched what happened to their bodies during trading. What they found was remarkable and disturbing. When traders experienced losses, their bodies responded the same way they would if they were about to get into a physical fight. Heart rate spiking, blood pressure rising, adrenaline dumping into their system, cortisol flooding their brain, the whole primal survival response. But here's what's really interesting, and this is crucial. It wasn't the size of the loss that mattered most. It was the frequency, the repetition, the unpredictability. A trader who lost $1,000 but won regularly showed moderate stress responses. A different trader who won $3,000 occasionally but lost $1,000 repeatedly showed severe stress responses even though mathematically they were both making money. Your brain isn't a calculator. It's a survival machine that evolved over millions of years to detect patterns and avoid threats. And consecutive losses losing over and over again triggers ancient threat detection systems in your brain that don't care about your expected value calculations. They don't care about your spreadsheet. They just know that what you're doing keeps resulting in pain, and they want you to stop. There's this concept in neuroscience called reward prediction error. Basically, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical, not when you get a reward, but when you get a reward that's better than expected. This is why slot machines are so addictive. The unpredictability creates massive dopamine hits when you finally win. Trading, with a 55% win rate, creates a relatively stable dopamine environment. You win fairly often. Your brain stays balanced. You can think clearly. You can execute your strategy. Trading with a 35% win rate creates a dopamine drought. Your brain is constantly predicting a win because that's what you're trying to do. When that prediction is wrong, which it is 65% of the time, you get a negative prediction error. And this repeated over and over doesn't just make you feel bad, it actually impairs your decision-making ability. The research shows that repeated negative prediction errors decrease activity in your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making, for impulse control, for planning. Meanwhile, it increases activity in your amygdala, your fear center. In plain English, losing repeatedly makes you dumber and more scared. You literally cannot think as clearly. Have you ever noticed that after a string of losses, even simple decisions become harder? You freeze up on entries. You second-guess everything. That's not you being weak, that's neuroscience. Now let's talk about something even darker: learned helplessness. This is a concept from psychology that explains why some people give up even when escape is possible. Martin Seligman did these experiments. They're kind of disturbing, but they're important. He exposed dogs to random negative events they couldn't escape. Eventually, those dogs stopped trying to escape even when they could. They had learned that their actions didn't matter. They were helpless. The same thing happens to traders on extended losing streaks. After enough consecutive losses, your brain starts to believe that your actions don't matter, that you can't control outcomes, that you're helpless. And when you believe that, one of two things happens. Either you stop trading entirely, or you start taking terrible revenge trades because it doesn't matter anyway. This is why Mike, our 3-1 trader, is psychologically doomed. He might have the same expected value as Sarah. He might even have a higher expected value on paper, but he's constantly being psychologically battered in a way that Sarah isn't. Every single week, he's having his brain chemistry altered, his confidence eroded, his decision-making impaired. Now let's flip this around. Let's talk about what happens when you win. Because this is where the 1-1 system really shines. There's this incredible phenomenon in neuroscience called the winner's effect. Researchers found that when an animal wins a fight, its testosterone levels spike, and elevated testosterone makes it more likely to win the next fight, which spikes testosterone again, creating a winning feedback loop. John Coates, a former Wall Street trader who became a neuroscience researcher, studied this effect in actual traders. He measured testosterone and cortisol levels throughout the trading day. What he found was remarkable. Traders who had a winning morning had significantly elevated testosterone in the afternoon. And this wasn't just a feel-good effect. Higher testosterone actually improved their pattern recognition, improved their risk assessment, improved their execution speed. They made better trades because they had won earlier. They were operating in a virtuous cycle. Conversely, traders on losing streaks had elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, which impaired their cognitive function. They were operating in a vicious cycle where losing made them more likely to lose again. Here's why this completely destroys the case for 3.1 risk-reward ratios. The winner's effect requires winning frequently enough to maintain it. Sarah, winning 55% of her trades, is almost always operating in a positive psychological state. She might lose 2 trades, but then she wins 2 or 3. Her testosterone stays elevated. Her confidence remains high. Her decision-making stays sharp. She's in flow. Mike, winning only 35% of his trades, spends most of his time in a cortisol-elevated, confidence-depleted state. Even when he finally hits that big winner and makes $300, he knows statistically that several losses are probably coming soon. He can't maintain the winner's effect because wins are too infrequent. He's never in flow. He's always grinding uphill. This creates a devastating feedback loop. The psychological difference between 55% and 35% isn't just 20 percentage points on a spreadsheet. It's the difference between operating in a virtuous cycle where winning makes you better at winning versus a vicious cycle where losing makes you more likely to keep losing. Let me show you what these two approaches look like visually. Imagine your equity curve, that graph of your account balance over time. Sarah's 1.1 system with 55% win rate produces an equity curve that looks like a staircase. Up a step, down a step, up 2 steps, down a step, up a step. It's not smooth trading, never is, but it's relatively steady. The upward trend is clear. The setbacks are modest and temporary. You can see progress. You can trust the process. Mike's 3-1 system with 35% win rate produces an equity curve that looks like a damn roller coaster. Long, stomach-churning drops interrupted by occasional massive spikes that shoot you up rapidly before the next plunge. The overall trend might be up, but you need the discipline of a Tibetan monk to stay on this ride. Most traders bail out during one of those long drops, right before the big spike that would have made it all worthwhile. There's actually a statistical measure for this called the ulcer index. I'm not making this up. It's literally named after stress-induced ulcers. It measures the psychological pain of drawdowns over time. Researchers have back-tested systems with identical expected values but different win rates. The lower win rate systems, like Mike's 3-1, consistently produced ulcer index scores 2 to 3 times higher than higher win rate systems like Sarah's 1-1, 2 to 3 times. More psychological pain for the same mathematical outcome. This matters because trading isn't just about math on a spreadsheet. It's about whether you can actually execute the math, whether you can stick with the system, whether you can press the button when your strategy says to press it. And you can't do any of that if you're psychologically destroyed by the natural variance of your own system. Here's what happens in reality. Mike might abandon his 3-1 system right before it hits its big winning streak. He's been losing for weeks. He's down 15%. His friends are asking him if he's still doing that trading thing. His partner is worried about the money. He decides the system is broken. He stops trading it. Then, and this is the cruel irony, the market trends. His system would have caught a massive winner. That $300 winner he was hunting for finally appears. But Mike's not there. He quit. He gave up right before it worked. Sarah never faces this temptation because her equity curve never gets painful enough to trigger abandonment. She stays in the game, and in trading, staying in the game is 80% of winning. Now let's talk about something practical that affects thousands of traders: prop firm challenges. Because this is where the difference between 1-1 and 3.1 systems becomes brutally, painfully obvious. Most prop firms have similar challenge structures. You get a demo account, let's say $100,000, you need to hit a profit target, usually 8 or 10%. But here's the killer. You cannot exceed a 10% drawdown at any point. If you hit that drawdown limit, it's game over. Challenge failed. You lose your entry fee. You start over. Let's run the numbers on how Mike and Sarah perform in this environment, because this is where theory meets harsh reality. Mike, with his 3-1 system and 35% win rate, is risking 1% per trade, $1,000. Let's say he takes 1 trade per day on average, which is reasonable. Over 30 days, he'll take about 30 trades. With a 35% win rate, he'll win roughly 10 trades and lose 20 trades. But here's the thing, and this is crucial: those wins and losses won't be evenly distributed. They'll cluster. Remember our losing streak analysis? There's a very real, statistically normal chance Mike hits 8 or 10 losses in a row during this challenge. Just 8 losses in a row puts him at negative $8,000. That's an 8% drawdown. He's now terrifyingly close to blowing the challenge with almost no room for error. One more bad streak and he's done. And remember, this is normal operation for a 35% win rate system. He's not doing anything wrong. The system is working exactly as designed. But the prop firm challenge structure doesn't care about long-term expected value. It doesn't care about theoretical probabilities. It cares about what happens in these specific 30 days. Sarah, with her 1-on-1 system and 55% win rate, is also risking $1,000 per trade. She takes 30 trades over the month. She'll win roughly 16 and lose 14. Her worst-case losing streak is probably 4 or 5 trades in a row. That's a $4,000 to $5,000 drawdown, uncomfortable, but she's nowhere near the 10% limit. She has breathing room. She can keep trading without fear. Monte Carlo simulations where computers run thousands of possible scenarios show that the 1.1 system with 55% win rate passes prop firm challenges about 67% of the time. The 3.1 system with 35% win rate, only 41%. Think about what this means practically. If you're trading the 3.1 system, you'll probably need to buy 2 or 3 challenges before you pass one. That's $500 to $1,500 in sunk costs before you even start trading a funded account. And psychologically, failing these challenges over and over is devastating. With the 1-1 system, you'll probably pass on your first or second attempt. Less money wasted, less psychological damage, more success. And here's something interesting. Prop firms themselves, in their internal training, don't actually emphasize 3.1 risk-reward ratios. They teach whatever gives their traders the highest probability of consistent, low-volatility returns, because they know that traders who blow up psychologically don't make them money. Let's talk about trade frequency, because this is another huge advantage nobody discusses. Mike is hunting for 3.1 setups. These don't appear often. Why? Because the market needs to offer you 3 times the distance to a target as you're risking to a stop loss. This requires very specific conditions, strong directional moves with tight consolidations where you can hide your stop behind. In a typical trading month, Mike might find 8 to 12 high-quality 3.1 setups. He's being patient. He's being selective. He's doing everything the gurus tell him to do. Sarah is looking for 1.1 setups. These are everywhere. Any decent support or resistance level, any breakout with momentum, any pullback in a trend that offers equal distance up as the stop distance down. She's finding 20 to 30 solid setups per month without compromising quality. But wait, you're thinking, aren't more trades just more opportunities to lose? Only if you don't have an edge. If you have a genuine edge, a real statistical advantage, then more trades means more opportunities to express that edge. More opportunities to make money. And here's where it gets really interesting. Every trade is a data point. Every trade teaches you something about your strategy, about market conditions, about your own psychology. Sarah is getting 20 to 30 data points per month. After 6 months, she has 120 to 180 trades in her sample. That's enough data to actually know if her system works. She knows her real win rate. She knows how she personally handles the psychological aspects. She's collected meaningful data. Mike is getting 8 to 12 data points per month. After 6 months, he has 48 to 72 trades. That's barely enough to distinguish between skill and luck. He doesn't really know if his system works or if he just got lucky or unlucky during this particular 6-month period. He's still basically trading blind. Second, there's market adaptability. Markets change constantly. Sometimes they trend, sometimes they chop, sometimes volatility is high, sometimes it's dead. Sarah takes enough trades that she sees these changes quickly and can adapt. She notices when her win rate drops from 55% to 48% and can investigate why. Maybe her system needs adjustment for current conditions. Mike takes so few trades that he won't even notice market changes until months have passed. By the time he has enough data to realize something's different, the market might have changed again. He's always behind. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Almost no professional traders obsess over risk-reward ratios the way retail traders do. Go look at what firms like SMB Capital teach their traders. They emphasize win rate, consistency, psychological management. They talk about these things far more than they talk about risk-reward ratios. Jane Street is one of the most successful trading firms in the world, billions in profits. You know what their risk-reward ratio is on most trades? About 1.1. They're not trying to hit home runs. They're trying to make small, consistent profits on massive volume. DRW Trading, another elite prop firm, uses strategies with high win rates and relatively tight risk-reward ratios. They scale position size. They manage risk dynamically. They focus on execution quality. The 3-1 risk-reward obsession is almost exclusively a retail trader phenomenon. And you know why it persists? Because it sounds smart. Because it's simple to teach. Because it makes for compelling YouTube thumbnails. Just risk $100 to make $300. You only need to be right 25% of the time. It's a seductive story. The problem is that compelling stories and effective trading strategies are not the same thing. Not even close. I'm not saying professionals never use wide risk-reward ratios. Of course they do when it's appropriate, when they're position trading over weeks or months, when they're playing for large moves in strongly trending markets, when the setup genuinely warrants a distant target, but they're not dogmatic about it. They're not automatically rejecting trades because they're only 1.1 or 1.5.1. They're taking whatever the market is offering that has positive expected value and that they can execute consistently. Let me be clear about something because I don't want you to misunderstand. I'm not here to tell you that 3.1 risk-reward ratios are always wrong. Context matters, strategy matters, your psychology matters. If you're position trading on higher time frames, daily or weekly charts, you might have very clear technical levels that justify wide targets. A breakout of a major consolidation that's been building for months might genuinely offer 3.1 or 5.1 potential. Take it. If you're trading in strongly trending markets and trailing your winners, letting them run absolutely makes sense. You might enter targeting 1.1 but end up with 3.1 or better because the trend extends. That's beautiful. That's proper trade management. If you have a specific setup that you've backtested thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, hundreds of trades across multiple market conditions, and it legitimately produces profitable results with wide risk-reward ratios, then trade it. But here's the crucial part. You need to have tested it. You need to know your real win rate, your real maximum drawdown, your real psychological tolerance for the losing streaks. The problem isn't with 3:1 risk-reward ratios themselves. The problem is with the dogmatic advice that you should always be aiming for them, regardless of context, market conditions, or your trading style. That's what's destroying traders. Some traders genuinely have the psychological makeup to handle low win rates. They don't get fazed by losing streaks. They trust their system completely. They have sufficient capital to weather large drawdowns. For these rare individuals, wider risk-reward ratios might be optimal. But for most traders, especially newer traders, traders with smaller accounts, traders doing prop firm challenges, traders who need consistent income, the 1.1 approach is almost always superior. Be brutally honest with yourself. If you find yourself constantly tempted to overtrade, to revenge trade, or to abandon your system during normal drawdowns, you need a higher win rate approach. You need more frequent wins to maintain your psychology. The best risk-reward ratio isn't the one with the highest expected value on paper. It's the one you can actually execute consistently given your psychology, your capital, and your life situation. Let me bring this all together because this is important. The trading education industry has sold us a complete fantasy with this obsession over wide risk-reward ratios. It sounds sophisticated. It sounds professional. I only take 3:1 setups sounds impressive when you say it at a trading meetup, but when you actually examine the mathematics of losing streaks, the neuroscience of consecutive losses, the psychological impact of volatile equity curves, the reality of prop firm challenges, and what professional traders actually do in the real world, a very different picture emerges. Higher win rates with tighter risk-reward ratios aren't just acceptable, they're often superior for most traders in most situations. A 1.1 system with 55% win rate will outperform a 3.1 system with 35% win rate for the vast majority of traders, even when the mathematical expected values are identical. Why? Because you'll experience dramatically fewer and shorter losing streaks. Your psychology will remain stable instead of deteriorating. You'll benefit from the winner's effect instead of battling learned helplessness. Your equity curve will be smoother and less psychologically painful. You'll have a much higher chance of passing prop firm challenges. You'll trade more frequently, learning faster and earning more consistently, and crucially, you'll find that your live trading performance actually matches your backtesting because you're not being psychologically destroyed by the variance. Trading isn't just about mathematical expected value on a spreadsheet. It's about psychological sustainability. It's about execution. It's about consistency. It's about being able to stay in the game long enough for your edge to play out. The trader who survives and thrives isn't the one with the most impressive risk-reward ratio to brag about. It's the one who can execute their strategy day after day, week after week, month after month, without being psychologically destroyed by the natural variance of markets. My challenge to you: stop chasing impressive-sounding risk-reward ratios and start building systems you can actually trade consistently. Test both approaches with your own data. Be honest, brutally honest about your psychology. Find what actually works for you, not what sounds good in a YouTube comment section or looks impressive on Twitter, because at the end of the day, the best trading system isn't the one with the best hypothetical returns. It's the one you'll still be trading a year from now, the one that doesn't break you psychologically, the one that allows you to sleep at night. The professionals know this. Now you do too. This is Trader's Metal Edge, where we focus on the psychological realities that actually determine trading success. If this video challenged how you think about risk-reward ratios and trading psychology, subscribe for more content that tells you the truth instead of what sounds impressive. The best traders aren't the ones chasing perfect ratios. They're the ones who understand themselves well enough to trade what actually works for them.